You and I are kind of the warm-up act for Chairman Powell's second day of testimony today. So let's talk a little bit about that. Yesterday, he went before the House of Representatives, and the markets took his comments as saying, we are going to cut rates in July. Did the markets get the right impression?
Well, they're much more expert than I am on that. I think he said the same thing yesterday that he's been saying for the last month and that we said in our last memo, which is we don't have forward guidance anymore in the memo. We're watching very carefully what's happening in the data, and we're looking very much on upside risks and downside risks. And, at this point, they're a little more tilted to the downside, which is why we're looking at it.
Well, the market's basically priced in a 100% chance of a rate cut now. Can you go against the markets?
We have a lot of time left before the meeting. We'll see what happens. We'll have a lot of data that comes in. CPI came in this morning, and we'll get PCE inflation. We'll get retail sales. We'll get consumer spending. And markets are smart, so if the data ends up with a different kind of outcome, the markets will, I'm sure, adjust.
Well, what's your view of the economy? Markets have basically priced a Fed reaction to a recession almost.
Well, I actually still feel pretty good about the economy. On the consumer side, spending is great. On the labor side, the markets are still quite tight. And those are very healthy signs in our economy. What the chairman mentioned yesterday, and what clearly is a concern on my mind, is business confidence and business investment. The first quarter was fine, but the indicators we see for the second quarter are less strong. And so I've been out with my contacts in our district, asking questions about how do you feel about the climate for business investment? And I'd say that folks haven't pulled back yet. I don't see people laying folks off. I don't see people cutting back existing plans. But they're also not leaning forward in the way that you might, as strong as the numbers have shown in our economy.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because you have a little bit different background than the PhD economists on the Fed. You were a business consultant at McKinsey for years, so you're the guy who talks to the CEOs. What's their general feeling about the economy, and where is it going? I mean, do they think we're headed down, or are they just really unsure?
Well, confidence is very fragile, and most everyone I talk to says this is the longest upturn in my memory, and actually it has been in recorded U.S. economic history. It's got to change at some point. And so there's that concern in their mind that things are close to changing. That said, when you talk to them about their own businesses, with very few exceptions, their own businesses are doing quite well. And so today is good, but they're nervous about tomorrow.
Well, what are they saying about demand going forward? Have they seen any kind of fall off?
I was with a bunch of consumer company CFOs a couple of weeks ago. They couldn't have been clearer that demand isn't falling at all. And, I've taken that as recently as this week. I was in South Carolina talking to business people, and they will tell me demand is still quite strong. So I don't see any issues on the consumer side of the house. Manufacturing's got some challenges, and if you're in the equipment parts business, for example, you might have seen a little bit of a slowdown. That's what happens on the investment side. But 70% of the economy is consumer, and that part still seems to be quite fine.